Thank you for joining us this evening to learn more about the Return to Learning plan that East Providence has developed. I first want to state that the governor, a week and a half ago, announced that all schools would return person to person on August 31st. After that announcement, the Rhode Island Department of Education asked all school districts in the state of Rhode Island to develop 3 plans. One plan is total return, person to person. The second plan is a hybrid plan. And the third plan is total distance learning. We submitted those plans to the Rhode Island Department of Health, who are reviewing those plans and sending them on to the Rhode Island Department the Rhode Island Department of Ed is reviewing those plans, sending them on to the Rhode Island Department of Health to review. And we are going to get them returned to us with recommendations on July 31st, as far as we know. Now, having developed these plans with a large contingent of people from the community, educators, teachers, administrators, school committee members were on these, community members were on these committees, and Dr. Ferran will talk more about it. We feel that we did the very best we could with the safety of students being first, and of course, the safety of our staff. So without further ado, I'm going to let Dr. Sandra Ferran, who spearheaded this initiative, talk to you about the various plans that we have presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Crawley. So tonight we're going to do a presentation on the reopening plan, and then we asked for comments ahead of time. So most have been addressed in the presentation. Those that are not, we have a slide at the end where we'll answer questions that might have been more specific to the high school level. So I'm going to begin by sharing my screen. This is the first of 4 meetings this week for each of the different levels. So as Superintendent Crawley said, when we were creating this plan, the district had set priorities. And first and foremost, we needed to consider the health and safety of all of our students and staff. We looked at equity, making sure students all got what they need to be successful, collaboration, innovation, resilience, and flexibility as we worked on developing these plans and moving forward. So you may have received a letter a few weeks ago about the planning process, but I just want to briefly review it. We have a district task force that consists of about 21 members from all different stakeholder groups. And then from that task force, we created 4 subcommittees: teaching and learning, which was chaired by Principal Bill Black and Principal Anne Marie Scott; operations and business, which was chaired by Diana Clocken, our director of operations. We had the physical environment and safety, which was chaired by Principal Lori Marchand, and our social emotional committee, which was chaired by our director of pupil personnel, Leslie Anderson, and our Riverside Middle School principal, Robert Perry. Each of those committees had members of approximately 15 members from all different stakeholder groups, including, parents, administrators, teachers from every level. And they really did a lot of the work that went into this plan. So they researched and they talked to people from other districts, and they looked at what was going on around the country and around the world, and they crafted their best plan from that, considering a variety of options for every scenario that came up. So based on the Rhode Island Department of Ed and the Rhode Island Department of Health guidance, this plan was created, and you can find that on the Rhode Island Department of Ed website. The guidance was extensive on what we needed to answer as far as questions. We submitted our draft on July 17th with a final approval we should get our feedback by Friday of this week. Hopefully it will be an approval, but plans are subject to change but we did want to get this information out to the community as soon as possible, knowing that this is a fluid plan and that things may change at any time. The decision for entry will be made by state officials on August 17th. So we will not be the ones that decide whether or not the building's open or we go on distance learning. That will be made by the governor and her staff, along with the Commissioner of Education. And we will be ready with the plans that we have in place based on what decision is made on how to open. So I want to first talk about the different return scenarios. I do want to briefly talk about elementary because I know we probably have parents here from all levels. So when we speak about a full in-person return, it would be for elementary, a Monday through Friday. All students would be in school in secure groups of no more than 30, that's including adults. So it would be a classroom along with the teachers that would be working alongside that classroom. So the cap of the number of people that would be in contact would be 30. And students in a full in-person for elementary would come every day. We also would have all pre-K students come back full in person. If we are told that we need to go to a partial return, what that means is that we have to reduce the number of students coming into the building by 50%. That would be a Monday through Friday, grades K to 2 in school and our special populations. Grades 3 to 5 would be on distance learning and all pre-K would come in person. Part of the guidance that we received was really looking at transition grades when we brought them back. And so the decisions that we made on who would come back were based on those different scenarios. For a limited return, once again, we need to reduce the number of students down to about 25%. So it would be a Monday through Friday with grade K and our special populations. Grades 1 through 5 would be on distance learning, and all pre-K students would again be in person. We have altered the school hours for elementary from 9:15 to 3 o'clock. So they would be coming in a little later, and that is so that we have an opportunity to sanitize the buses in between the school runs. Students in elementary school will remain in the classroom all day. They will have special subjects, so art, music, PE would be pushing into those classrooms, or they may be taking them outside, as we're strongly encouraging outside activities, but it would be limited. So first grade might have art for the entire first quarter, or they might have music or PE. In order to reduce the number of teachers that enter that classroom, we would be limiting that to one special subject per a quarter. When students are not in school, they will be on distance learning. And I don't think that was clear to everyone. That question did come up frequently from parents. So if they're not in person in school, they will be doing distance learning. And we'll talk more about what distance learning will look like as we move into the next section. For middle school, a full in-person return would mean that 6th grade would be in school Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday in all of our special populations. On Monday and Tuesday, grade 7 would join them. And on Thursday and Friday, grade 8 would join them. Wednesday will be a distance learning day for all of our secondary schools. And the reason behind that is so that we can deep clean the buildings between different pods of students coming in. So that will be from grades 6 through 12. Distance learning days will always be on Wednesdays. If we return in a partial return scenario, we would have Monday would be Monday through Friday with the exception of Wednesday. Again, grade 6 would come in because they're a transition grade. They're our youngest grade in the middle school. So we would have them in. On Monday, grade 7, team 1 would come in. Special populations again would be in Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. On Tuesday, grade 7, team 2 would join them. On Thursday, we would have grade 8, team 1. And then on Friday, we would have grade 8, team 2. So again, we've had to reduce the population from the in-person, the full in-person, down by to 50%. For a limited return, it would again be all grade 6. Wednesday will remain a distance learning day for 6th grade. So all grade 6, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and special populations. And grade 7 and 8 would be on distance learning for the week if we had to go to a scenario where we could only allow 25% of the population into the building. The school hours, students would come in at the regular time, which is 7:45, and they'll be dismissed at 1:30 to allow us time to clean the buses in between the middle and the elementary run. Students in the middle school will follow an elementary schedule. They will remain in the classroom all day, again, with their itinerants pushing in for the most part. Outside activities for all grades will be strongly encouraged so that we can get students outside. They can have breaks. So that we are looking at for all grade levels. And then distance learning will take place on any days when students are not in school. For the high school return scenarios, we would be looking at bringing all grade 9 and 11 students into school with our special populations on Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday, again, would be a distance learning day so that we could deep clean the building between groups. Thursday and Friday would be all grade 10 and 12 in our special populations. On a partial return, it would be Monday and Tuesday, all grade 9 and 11 in special populations. Wednesday, distance learning. Thursday, Friday, all grade 10 and 12 in special populations. It does look the same as the full in-person scenario, and that's because we had already reduced the population at the high school by 50% because that's how we felt we could return people safely. As far as limited, Monday would be grade 9, Tuesday would be grade 11, distance learning on Wednesday, Thursday would be grade 10, Friday would be grade 12, and special populations would come in Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. The school hours would be 7:45, so the normal entry time, and a 12:30 dismissal time, again, to clean between bus runs. And then distance learning will take place for all grade levels if they are not in school. We were asked about special populations, so we're defining our special populations as our self-contained classes, our therapeutic classes, and all of our highly specialized classes. It would not be resource students on IEPs, but it would be the other population that we just talked about. So the next section we'd like to discuss is health and safety, addressing face coverings first. So staff and students are required to wear face coverings. This, again, has been a switch from our original plan based on guidance that we have received. So right now we are requiring staff and students to wear face coverings. If there is a medical reason, you would work that out with your principal and your school nurse if your child could not wear a face covering for medical reasons. We will build in intentional mask breaks into the day. We know it is a long time for students to wear masks, so we would make sure that those were built into the day to give students a break. And again, if you need a medical exemption for a mask, we would ask that you reach out to your school principal. So we will have plans for the hallways at all of our schools. There'll be one way whenever possible with visuals posted on the floors and walls throughout the building, and we have those visuals that we'll be putting up. The arrival and dismissal, students will enter the building one way through multiple doors with directions clearly and visually marked on floors and walls. So any school where that's possible to enter classrooms directly, we'll be asking students to enter the classrooms directly. In other schools where that isn't possible, we'll be looking to spread them out to enter through doors that are throughout the building to reduce the flow of traffic at any one particular point. Individual schools plans will vary based on the building structure, and plans will be communicated to families by principals before school starts. So we are working right now with principals to create plans for all of their schools, since our schools look very different, and the way that we'll need to do these things will look different in each building. So every individual school will have a plan that meets the overall guidance that the district has set forth. There will be a no visitor policy in all of our buildings. So we will not be allowing anyone into the building during the school day. So the principals, again, will communicate that, how that will work in each building, but the visitors will not be allowed inside. Classroom layouts. So the classrooms will look very different this year, and I will show you some pictures after of what they look like at this point, set up at the different levels. So when students enter the classrooms, we'll be assigning them ways to get into the classroom that minimize distance and traffic, and their movement throughout the classroom will follow a certain flow, and that'll all be communicated to students. We are asking all students and staff to maintain 6 feet of distance whenever possible, and you'll see that in the layout of the classrooms. Desks and tables will be set up to allow for 6 feet of distance between students. Students will face the same directions in the classroom. Our teachers have removed all non-essential furniture in order to allow for maximum distancing in classrooms. There'll be assigned seating in each of the classrooms, and all porous materials have been removed. So if any type of beanbag, stuffed animals have all been removed from the classroom at this point. And these are all the safety measures that we are taking to make sure that student and staff safety is first and foremost. As far as dining goes, so at the high school, it'll be a grab and go breakfast. In the morning, we'll have multiple kiosks set up throughout the high school. And the same will work for lunches. It'll be bagged lunches. And as students are dismissed, they'll be able to get lunches as they leave the building, and there'll be bagged lunches for them to take with them. At the middle school, it will also be a grab and go breakfast. So students that usually get breakfast can get their breakfast in the morning and bring it to the classroom with them. Lunch will be delivered to classrooms. As of right now, there'll be bagged lunches, and we'll continue to assess that as things change. We're going to ask that students order in advance so we have a count, and we'll communicate more details about that plan. We're also encouraging outdoor lunch whenever possible. At the elementary level, all breakfast will be in the classroom. At most of our schools, that's already the way it is handled. And all lunches will be in the classroom. Again, lunches will be dropped off at the door and then distributed to students that order lunches. Students can still bring lunches from home if that's how they usually bring their lunch. It does not mean that they have to get a lunch from the school. And then we just ask that students bring water from home in the school because we will not be using the water fountains in the building. School events. So open house and back to school events will either be held outdoors or virtually. Gatherings at this point cannot exceed the state maximum group size. So if things were to open now, we would be looking at mostly virtual events at this point. Student and parent orientation will be held outside or virtually, and that's really for our transition grades like kindergarten, 6th grade, if a virtual orientation, and our pre-K program. So kindergarten screenings, we usually perform screenings on our kindergartners before school starts. Those would be performed individually. Appointments will be made with parents, and then we will follow appropriate cleaning protocols between each visit. At this time, there are no after-school activities. We are still in discussions right now with our after-school programs and a decision as far as our after-school childcare programs. No decision has been made at this time, but there are a lot of protocols and a lot of obstacles right now in place that we would need to have answers for before we would be able to open our before and after school programs. We know we had some high school parents specifically ask about sports. Right now, the Rhode Island Interscholastic League will be making the decision on sports, and that's still to be determined on what sports may or may not be played in the fall. So as far as health and safety screenings, parents will complete a daily symptom check and submit a Google form or a paper copy if needed. Parents will be called if the form is not submitted. So it aligns with Rhode Island's questionnaire for COVID symptoms. So we would ask that parents, before students come into school, complete that symptom check and attest to the fact that their child does not have any symptoms. Staff will also complete a health screening Google form before entering the building. There is an ill students and staff policy that is in the full document on the school website. You can find that policy there, and it clearly defines what our protocol would be if a student or staff member was to display symptoms during the day, how that would be handled. We've had several questions about our quarantine policy. If a student did have symptoms or tested positive, what would be the quarantine policy for students and staff? So that will not be an East Providence policy. That will be coming from the Rhode Island Department of Health and the Rhode Island Department of Ed. Right now, we are watching the daycare and camp policy, but again, that will be a document that is provided to us where they will spell out what the quarantine policy would be for possible exposure. So as soon as we do have that, that will be added to the full document on the website. And I know that was a big question for people, and that information will be coming. We are aware that that is not right now in our full document. So as far as hygiene, we're going to provide hand washing opportunities for students at regular intervals. There will be hand sanitizer available in all classrooms and hallways. Desks will be wiped down if the group of students in a classroom changes. A regular cleaning schedule will be implemented and monitored in each building. We have signs regarding health and safety that will be posted throughout the building. We will also be doing training on health and safety issues that will be provided by the Rhode Island Department of Health, and we will use that for staff and students. And the district has secured much of the needed supplies, including sanitizing material, cleaning supplies, and the necessary PPE. So we are not asking anyone to bring in that type of material. We will have that in classrooms. Wipes and sanitizing material and hand sanitizer will be available in all classrooms. So what will classrooms look like this year? So things will not look the same. I know we spoke about the guidance for classrooms a little while ago, but there will be spacing between all students. There will be no sharing of materials between students. Again, students will be in rows all facing the same direction. We are asking teachers that they maintain 6 feet of distance whenever possible. And we are setting classrooms up in order to allow 6 feet of distance between all students and staff. There will be no close group work taking place in classrooms. And principals are currently working on their plans for their schools. Again, I mentioned this earlier, their traffic flow, their entrance and exit, their hallways, and their schedules. So that those plans will work with principals. The superintendent, myself, and the director of facilities have walked through all of the schools and looked at all of the classrooms. We are meeting with principals to go through their plans. So that is all in progress at this time. So we wanted to let you see what an example of each classroom would look like. So this is the picture of one of the elementary classrooms that we already have set up. As you can see, desks are in the classroom and they're all spaced an appropriate distance at this point. And this is elementary. This is an example of one of our middle school classrooms. Again, all of the spacing has been measured out. And this is currently what we're doing in all of our buildings. And then a high school classroom. This is an example of the high school and what that would look like at this point. So these are all classrooms that are set up and ready to go for the opening of school. So this is what they would look like at each of the levels. So at this point, we want to talk about teaching and learning. So the first thing that we do want to address is that as part of our plan, we are offering a choice. We are still waiting on feedback from the Department of Ed. So we are hoping to be able to give families a choice. And we will ask you to choose between in-person education based on the schedule that state officials determine. So if they determine it's a partial opening or a full opening or a limited opening, you would choose in-person education and we would follow that. We are also offering a full distance learning option to families. So with that full distance learning option, students would not be reporting to the building for the first semester. We would ask that you commit to a full semester beginning on August 31st and going until January 25th. The reason that we're asking that is because we have to plan for that. And so we would need to dedicate teachers that would just do a full distance learning option. We are not going to ask our teachers at this time to do both an in-person classroom and a distance learning option at the same time, because that's a very difficult task. So if a cohort went on to distance learning and they're with a teacher, then that teacher would switch. But this is different. This is committing to an entire semester of distance learning. With that full distance learning option, students would be home all 5 days. There would be live lessons, there would be recorded lessons, and there would be required assignments. So it will look different than it did in the spring. We continue to evolve and work on our plans for distance learning, whether it's a full distance learning option or whether it's if we have to switch to distance learning because of an uptick in COVID cases. We are working to improve on what was done in the spring and do more live lessons than we did in the spring. So there would be a set schedule for students. And if students couldn't make it to a particular lesson, that would be recorded and they would be able to watch it. So distance learning, would it be evaluated at the semester mark if you choose the full distance learning option? And parents would have the opportunity in January, the end of January, to either send their children back to school, or if we still are in this situation, you could commit at that point for the second semester. We sent a survey to all families today asking if they want the full distance learning option. So we are asking you to commit if that's what you would like, is to keep your children home and do distance learning. We are asking you to commit by August 7th, which is next Friday. And we're asking that once you commit to distance learning, that you would remain there until January 25th. If you did not get the survey, it was sent out by email this afternoon. You can access it on our website. So you could fill out the survey if you want that option. So if you were to choose the distance learning option full semester, it can be for any families that just either have their child has a medical issue, or they are not comfortable sending their student back at this time. You would be allowed to choose that distance learning option. Again, we just sent out the survey this afternoon. It'll be by a semester. And again, set schedule and live classes. So I got a little bit ahead of myself on that slide, but all that information is on the website, and you can access the survey there if you choose that option. So if your students are coming to school and at some point we need to switch to distance learning, then this would apply. So again, lessons would be recorded as needed for students that might not be able to make a scheduled class while on distance learning. Instruction is going to be both synchronous and asynchronous. So there'll be live instruction where the teachers will meet with students using Google Hangout, and then recorded lessons that would also be used. So it will be a blend from the spring with more live instruction taking place. Set schedule would be created if we had to switch in the middle to distance learning, or if a class was to get quarantined or a school was to see a quarantine issue, we would switch to distance learning, and that could happen from one day to the next. So we will be ready for that if it does occur. Expectations for distance learning and what that will look like will be communicated to parents by their schools. So principals will be approving classroom schedules if we go into distance learning, and that will be communicated to parents. And there was some recommendations that we offer some workshops or videos for parents to help out with Google Classroom and some of the other programs we use, and to address any tech issues that parents had in the spring. So we will work to build those out for parents. So on the Teaching and Learning Committee, some of the issues and things that came up from teaching and learning were making sure that we have regular assessments built into our instruction, including both formative and summative, in order to continue to monitor student progress. We know that distance learning was not the same as being in person last year. We know that there's a summer slide with a lot of students, and that students were out of school for a while last year. So we will be monitoring where students are and we'll be reviewing as necessary and reteaching. Special education support services such as speech, OT, and PT, and multilingual language learner instruction will take place both in the classroom and virtually. So we are assessing that on a case-by-case basis in each school, looking at grade levels and where the highest need is. We are trying to avoid having teachers go into all classrooms that service students. So some of that may be, some of those services may be held virtually. Again, we'll be reteaching as needed based on our assessments and our diagnostic. Students will take subjects by quarter. So there was a question on whether they would have their regular subjects. They will still have their subjects. It will just be, as opposed to one a day, it would be the same one every day for the quarter. We need to address rigor and a balanced workload. That was something that came out of our survey with families. So we will be working to address those issues. And we do want people to understand that if your child participates in band and chorus, that as of right now, the guidelines are that there are 14 feet of space between students. So that does pose a barrier to having students in a band or chorus classroom. And we're working with the departments to come up with solutions to that. Social emotional supports. We know that this has been a difficult time for students and families and staff. And we had a committee that this was the topic that they focused on. The district team has developed plans for both students and staff, and you can find those in our full document on the district website. We have a social emotional learning coordinator that we've hired who will be doing professional development and working with our staff on social emotional issues and how to address those. All of our schools have a social worker and some have full-time psychologists, most have a part-time psychologist in the schools. So they will be working on building in social emotional supports and addressing issues as they come up. We really want to place an emphasis on relationship building in all of our classrooms right from the beginning of the school year, knowing that there is a possibility that if we do come back, we could end up going out on distance learning at any time. So really establishing those relationships with our students right away so that, if we do go out, we know our students. So if you have social emotional concerns, we ask that you contact the school administration. They can help you address some of those issues by providing access to supports. And we ask that you be proactive, communicate with the teachers and communicate with the principals and our social workers and guidance at the secondary school so that we can address any concerns that you or your child may have. District technology. So the district will issue Chromebooks to all students in grades K to 12. Students will be bringing those home each night, and we ask that you make sure that they are charged when they come back into the school the next day. We do install GoGuardian software on all of our district technology. And again, we'll work to do some workshops or recording for parents on Google Classroom. So all teachers will have a Google Classroom when the school year opens. Many had them before we went out on distance learning, but we will make sure that that's the platform for the entire district. And again, we'll provide support for parents on understanding Google Classroom. Busing is another major issue. So as of right now, the guidelines for busing only allow one student per seat, except for siblings. Siblings may sit together in the same seat. What we are asking is if you have other means of transportation that you please use that first. If you are able to bring your students to school or you are able to carpool, we ask that you do that and save those busing seats for students that have no other means of transportation. Once we see how many families choose distance learning, and then we'll be able to get a better idea of who will be able to have transportation and whether or not we need to push out the mileage at the different levels. But that right now is a work in progress. We will be reaching out to families that have utilized the bus in the past to see if your intent is to utilize the bus again this year. And then we'll be communicating with you on the busing plan after that. We want to try and accommodate as many students as possible, and we know that it is a challenge. So 1 to a seat reduces our population on the bus by, it only allows for 1/3 of our students on a bus at a time. So we are, again, right now it's a hybrid model at both the middle and high school. So we are hoping that we'll be able to accommodate most students that are attending that particular day by utilizing the transportation that we have. But again, the busing with the number of students returning to school and the amount of students per seat is a challenge statewide, and we are working on solutions to that. So as the superintendent said earlier, this plan continues to evolve daily. So we are working on building out procedures and policies. We are making changes to the plan. So the main plan that is on the district website was the plan that was needed to be submitted to RIDE. So it's, when you click on all the links, it's well over 100 pages. I do know that there are parents who have read through every page. We also sent out an abbreviated document that was still about 10 pages. That can also be found on the district website. And we tried to highlight all of the major areas of the plan. So both those resources can be accessed on the district website. Everything at this point is subject to change in this plan. We do not have RIDE approval yet, but we wanted to get out as much information to parents and families as possible ahead of time, so you could start, you would know what we were planning and you could start to think through the different scenarios. Again, the return to learn document is the abbreviated document. It was sent out in an email, and the full entry plan is also on the website. We do ask that if you do not have an up-to-date email address, that you please send that to your principal. That is our main mode of communication to the district. So when things come out from the district, we send it out by email. These meetings, there was an email sent out. We had 6,000 emails sent out, but we know that we didn't reach everyone. So if you could please make sure that we have an updated email address, that would be very helpful in order for us to get you the information that you need. And we will continue to update the district website.
Thank you, Sandy. Again, I'm going to emphasize it. The governor has control of this initiative and whether schools reopen and how they reopen. She is working in tandem with the Rhode Island Department of Health and Rhode Island Department of Education, and the Rhode Island Department of Health is also involved in reviewing our plans. Our plans, we feel, are the best for East Providence, for our students, for the safety of our students, and for the safety of our staff. But what we are telling you this evening, Friday could change. Please understand that. This is a fluid document that we will be adding to as facts and scientific information and data comes out. And I think from now until schools open, it will be a fluid document. But understand, we are stressing you have the choice as parents to choose distance learning or to choose one of the models that we will be instituting on August 31st.
So we also had some high school questions that were just specific to the high school. If you want me to answer those now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we had a couple of questions regarding the CTC. So the CTC, the Career and Tech Center, will be holding classes. We are currently working on a plan for students to get the required number of hours. We recognize that with a reduced schedule, we may need to bring students into the CTC on other days. And the superintendent and the director of the CTC are working on that. We had a question that if a parent chooses distance learning, but their child attends the CTC, we ask that you reach out to the principal and work that out with the principal of the CTC, and they can answer your questions and help you get a solution that would work for you. Again, email, please make sure you have a current email address on file with us. The COVID-19 policy is in the main document. There is a protocol right now for what happens if a student or a staff member was to develop symptoms during the school day, and that is a multi-page document. But again, we don't have the quarantine policy yet. That will be coming. A parent asked, why doesn't it say that students and staff must stay home if they have symptoms? It does say that in the document, and we also are asking parents every day and staff every day to fill out the Rhode Island form that asks about symptoms. So the district is, someone asked if the district is asking parents to sign a COVID waiver. We are not asking that. And on distance learning days, will lunch be available? So we are going to work to make lunch available. It probably will not be like it was in the summer as far as all of those locations. And it will be starting again when we start school. It will be, free, reduced, and paid lunches based on your lunch status. So we would definitely encourage people. They'll be online is the form for filling out for school lunches. So we would definitely encourage you to go online and fill out that form. I believe it will come out this week. So you could go on and you could do that ahead of time. And we know that a lot of people have had financial situations change. So please, even if in the past you may not have qualified, we ask that you still fill that out. And then for any questions, please feel free to reach out to your principal. But we have also created a 2021 reopening email address. So it's 20-21 reopening@epschools.ri.com. We ask that you're patient and give us time to respond. It is the same people responding that are working to create the plan. So it may take us a little while to get to that, but we will make sure that we address your questions as they come in.
And we are also following the CDC guidelines for reopening of schools. If you go on the CDC website, you will see those requirements. And Rhode Island is following in those plans as well. So we hope this was informative. We're meeting with middle schools tomorrow night, and then on Wednesday and Thursday night, our elementary parents as well. We will convene meetings as time goes on if things change dramatically, which I feel that they will, and we will certainly keep you informed. And thank you for coming on this evening and joining us. Please use that website or email that we have created if you have any further questions. And as Dr. Fran said, just give us some time to answer those questions, and we certainly will. Have a good evening and be safe, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.